Hello everyone! Today I'll play both the devil's advocate and the prosecutor. I think by now everyone has heard about the big announcement of the PlayStation 5 Pro, which has mostly been received negatively, and it's all because of one factor, the price. But if we forget about that and just look at the console itself, it's not that bad. Sony has shown not just a new console, but the best in history in terms of hardware and technology, although with a bunch of caveats that, for many, put a cross on it. So in this video, I decided to dive into whether this console is really that bad, what it's actually capable of, what unique experience it offers, and what its limit is in terms of visual quality. In short, today I'll do the work for Sony's marketing team. There won't be any blunt negativity, as many YouTube creators tend to do. My channel isn't about negativity without reason. I'll just lay down the facts that have piled up after the announcement, and I suggest you all be more positive about life, the things in our lives, and other people. After all, one corporation's desire to earn millions isn't a reason to tear each other apart in the comments. And after such a long intro, let's get started. Let's start with a brief overview of the complaints people have. I'll begin with the one I personally have, and it's the most important one out of all the issues I could come up with. As you might have guessed from the introduction, Sony, what the hell? How could you present the flagship console for the next 3 years in such a boring, dull, and quiet way? A 9-minute YouTube presentation where they quickly showed some footage from not even the newest games, and that's it. Here's the price, release date, and design. Seriously? And you thought this wouldn't trigger negative reactions from the gaming community? Even I, a longtime Sony fan, was baffled. This is the worst way you could have introduced the year's most important hardware release. You should have delayed the announcement and the release until you had something to show from the games. A massive hour-long showcase should have been organized, where the next AAA masterpieces from Santa Monica, Naughty Dog, Sucker Punch, Insomniac, and others could be shown. And only after that, introduce the PlayStation 5 Pro. Only then would people, riding on positive emotions, which is key, rush to buy your Pro, even with the overpriced tag. People, regular gamers, don't buy consoles because they have 3 stripes on the casing or 2 terabytes on board. They buy them for the awesome games they can only play on that console. It seems like the corporate suits in the PlayStation department are starting to forget this simple fact of life. I see this as the main reason why the negative reaction has become so loud and frequent. But it's not the only one. Of course, people are also complaining about the price, $700 in the US, 800 euros in Europe, and that's without a stand or even a disk drive. If you buy those separately, the price jumps to $1,000, for which you'd be better off getting a PC subscription for 5 years and still have enough left for plenty of pre-orders, or simply build a pretty powerful PC with a GTX 4070 Super, which would outperform the Pro. But if you can buy the Pro version for exactly $700 or 800 euros, no more, then it's a good price. Because for $700, you won't be able to get what the Pro offers in terms of game quality. No matter how hard you try, you can't build a PC with the same power as the Pro for the same $700. And I'm talking about new, not used components. For $1,000, you can easily build a PC, even if every component is brand new from the store. For $700, no. The main reason is the SSD, a 2 terabyte SSD on par with the PS5 costs around $150. And for some reason, many people overlook the fact that the console also comes with a DualSense controller, which costs $70 if bought separately. When you build a PC, no one throws in a keyboard and mouse for free, and a decent set will cost you around $100 on top. I was recently shopping for a new mouse and keyboard, and it was tough to find anything under $100. So out of the $700, about $220 goes toward the SSD and game controls. Plus, there's the HDMI cable, which also isn't free. In general, about a third of the price goes toward these things, leaving around $500 for the actual hardware that will let you play games at very high quality. Something that the slim version simply can't deliver no matter how hard it tries. Unfortunately, the Pro hasn't been released yet, but based on what we've seen so far, the difference is quite noticeable. In games that receive Pro enhancement updates, the quality mode shifts from 30 FPS to 60 FPS. The performance mode becomes sharper and sometimes FPS reaches 120, plus ray tracing is on a completely different level. For example, in Gran Turismo, cars reflect other cars passing by, which wasn't the case on the base version. In terms of raw performance, it's about 45% higher compared to the regular version. Ray tracing has been significantly improved, resolution and frame rates have increased. Additionally, in some cases, the graphics can be enhanced in terms of texture quality or anisotropic filtering. For example, in the PlayStation 5 Pro version of the Horizon sequel, the developers stated that they would improve character skin, shaders, clouds, and much more. So in some cases, not only resolution and FPS change, but many other aspects as well. After all, visual quality isn't just a dry number representing pixel count on the screen. A noticeable difference can be seen in the recent Final Fantasy VII remake. On the PlayStation 5 Pro, the image is not only sharper than the base version's quality mode, but it also runs at 60 FPS. On the base version, the quality mode runs at 30 FPS, and both the quality and performance modes on the base version lose out to their counterparts on the Pro. If you really want to play these kinds of new releases in 4K or near 4K at 60 FPS with sharper graphics, only the Pro will be able to give you that result. Otherwise, you'd need a PC costing over $1,000. And let's not forget that some titles like this one aren't even available on PC yet, which is also worth considering. There will also be cases where different modes will merge into one. For example, in the Spider-Man sequel, there will be a new graphics mode that lets you play in native 4K at 60 FPS, and with ray tracing, which was previously only available in one specific mode. Of course, this image sharpness isn't achieved solely by the hardware, but also through the PSSR upscaling technology. If you've ever played on a PC with current hardware in recent games, you're probably familiar with NVIDIA DLSS. I'll show examples on screen. I recorded them on my PC, and DLSS processes and upscales the image so that you don't lose visual quality, but you gain more FPS. In some situations, you can get 60 FPS instead of 40 just by enabling DLSS on the quality setting, and I don't notice any difference in image quality at all. At the same time, the smoothness of the image increases. Sony has achieved a similar result. A developer making a game for the PS5 Pro can set a lower native resolution, like 1080p instead of 4K. This way, the remaining graphical resources can be used to boost FPS, allowing the player to enjoy 60 FPS and sometimes even 120. Then, using PSSR, the resolution is upscaled by AI to 4K or close to it. As a result, we get both high FPS and a very high quality image. Again, how this will work in new games is something we'll see later. I promise, as soon as I buy a few games, I'll record a detailed side-by-side comparison across a dozen new titles, covering many aspects. But for now, based on what different bloggers, whom Sony trusts and gave the Pro early, have shown, we can already say the difference is striking. I'll show on screen what is already known about game performance. Some points are really impressive in a good way. And yet, people still complain. Not long ago, console players were happy with stable 30 FPS, and now some games reach up to 120, and people are still dissatisfied. Humans are strange creatures. The better their life gets, the more their demands grow. As you can see from the list, there are still cases where even the Pro can't push beyond 30 frames, but think about it. Even the most expensive graphics cards today can't always handle new games with great graphics, stable FPS over 30, and upscaling to 4K. Even the 4090, which costs as much as 3 PlayStation 5 Pros, can't always run a game on ultra settings in 4K with DLSS and maintain at least 60 frames. So what can you expect from a console that's full of compromises to keep the price down? Believe me, if Sony's engineers could pack even more power into $700, they would have done it. But unfortunately, they're not wizards from Hogwarts who can work magic like that. However good the Pro may be, if you can't get it for exactly $700, I wouldn't recommend buying it. Because even if you spend $1,000 on it, how long will it last? There are only about 3, maybe 4 years left in this generation, and you'll be paying $1,000 for such a short period, still without avoiding compromises. Yes, the difference in visuals is there. You can see it, but not to the extent that justifies such a big overpayment. In my opinion, the base PS5 and the slim version are still doing well. Yes, there are issues that really stand out. In games like Black Myth, Wukong, you'll see stuttering and FPS drops. But the Pro won't be a magic fix either, because even at that price, it won't come close to top solutions like the 4080 Super, which I remind you also won't give you a fully uncompromised experience. One way or another, compromises will exist on the Pro. It could be lower FPS for the sake of ray tracing or low native resolution, which will be upscaled to 4K through PSSR. The upscaling technology itself is just starting to take root on consoles, and the Pro is the testing ground for it. By buying the Pro, you are essentially becoming a tester for this technology, which, at best, will be perfected in the next generation. So unless you're the golden child of the family, I'd recommend either getting the PS5 Slim, which is still impressive and will remain so until around 2028, or waiting for the PlayStation 6. Yes, it's frustrating to miss big releases like Death Stranding 2 and GTA 6, but what can you do? Personally, if I weren't a blogger, I'd either get a PC for a similar price to the PS5 Pro, or just stick with the base version and skip the Pro, waiting for the PlayStation 6. But since I've already promised to review the Pro version, I'll buy it for the review and then we'll see how much better the visuals actually get. But let me remind you that in all the big titles, even on the Slim, there's a mode with 60 frames per second if that's really important to you. Yes, the game gets blurry and the resolution drops, but if you're not a graphics purist and just want to enjoy the story, fight smoothly, or shoot, you'll be able to play and enjoy it without a problem. Back in my day, regular PC gamers were happy if the game even started. As a student, I played online games on an ancient computer at minimum settings in 720p and 25 FPS. Sometimes I'd mix things up by firing up a PlayStation 1. And even then, I had tons of fun with games. Of course, times have changed and expectations for games and visuals have increased. But you have to remember, a console isn't a magic machine that will give you ultra graphics, 4K, and 60 FPS at the snap of your fingers. Right now, no graphics card in the world can give you that in new games, even if it costs $2,000. Both Sony engineers and video game developers have been striving for years to provide the best possible gaming experience for the price. And if they can't do better, it might simply be impossible. However, I won't deny that there are lazy developers like those at Ubisoft or EA who manage to release games with graphics on the PlayStation 5 that are worse than those on older PlayStation 4 titles, even on the PS4 fat and slim versions. To sum up, if you're an average gamer who just wants to play without selling a kidney, feel free to go for the PlayStation 5 Slim. You can easily find one on the secondhand market for $450. As for a brand new Pro version, I recommend it only for those who wouldn't feel the pinch of spending $1,000 or more. If that's you, where buying it is just a casual, okay, I'll get it, let it sit by the TV kind of thing, and you don't have to sacrifice your own needs, even to the point of skipping meals, then sure, go ahead. But what if you're in a place where the console costs $700, $800? Go for it without hesitation. The Pro version is excellent. What it can deliver in games is the best ever seen in the history of gaming consoles. It's a platform for new technologies like PSSR, but there's no need to rush and spend a huge amount of money right now, especially since budget-friendly fat and slim versions of the console are still available, and with the release of the PlayStation 6 in 3 to 4 years on the horizon. If the Pro version were only 15–20% more expensive than the Slim, it would be easy to say that everyone should go for the Pro. But at its current price, it's definitely worth considering. Plus, there's no rush. There won't be any major or critical releases in the next 6 months. We'll have to wait at least a year for GTA 6. By then, you'll be able to weigh your options, compare, and decide, especially with direct comparisons between older versions and PCs built for a similar price to the PS5 Pro. For now, let's calmly stick with what we have. And if you don't have anything yet, go for what offers the best power for every dollar spent. I promise that once I get the Pro version, I'll make comparison videos between it, PCs, and standard PS5 versions. So subscribe so you don't miss it. I'll do a complete technical breakdown of every aspect of the console. At the moment, I don't have the Pro in my hands. Personally, I'll comfortably play the upcoming releases on my fat PS4, and some games even on my PC. Fortunately, my 4070 Super still handles all the latest games on Ultra, even if it's in 2K with DLSS. I don't see much point in hating on Sony for the Pro version. It's an excellent console that will give developers more freedom, allowing them to make games even more visually stunning without making players pay over €800. Although, they could have at least included a disk drive for that price. Let's also not forget about the clumsy developers and the small Xbox Series S, which might limit developers, especially toward the end of the generation. But considering that some publishers manage to port big games to the Nintendo Switch, it really comes down to the ability to optimize games, a skill many studios nowadays choose not to invest time in, releasing unfinished games instead. But that's a side note. Overall, I've reconsidered my view on the Pro version. Technically, it does push the industry forward. I just hope the next generation won't cost $1,000 at launch. What do you think about the Pro version? What's your choice? Let me know in the comments. Are you going to get the Pro, build a PC, or stick with the fat PS4? I'd love to hear your thoughts. And thank you for your support. Without it, this channel and the new videos wouldn't exist. See you very soon. Wishing you all the best, and remember to play only great games. Where you play them isn't as important.